Hey everybody, welcome once again to the Wrestling Inc. podcast. I'm Glenn Rubenstein, joined as always by Giri, and today we're going to talk about SmackDown Live for January 10th, 2017. Raj, how's it going, man?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Let's hop right into SmackDown and talk about what happened. The show opened with a recap of The Miz and Dean Ambrose and what they've been up to in their feud the past couple weeks. And we had an in-ring segment between the two of them, really kicking off the show. And that was the only development on their storyline this week. Raj, I mean, without, talking about the nuts and bolts of it too much, I mean, do you feel good about this being what it looks like The Miz and Dean Ambrose are going to be involved in for a while?
Yeah, I think it was the natural way to go. And I think there's enough difference in their characters that they make it interesting. And so I like the way they're going. I think Dean Ambrose has lost a bit over the past year, basically since his Brock Lesnar feud. And working with The Miz, I think can help him get that back.
Yeah, and what's interesting about it, I thought, I love the segment. I love that the payoff to the joke was Dean giving the Miz back his Miz Participation Award, which I just love that they're doing that. But I thought that was really interesting about this is that when they recapped the feud to date, what did they leave out? The promo. They did not show any of the promo that the Miz cut on SmackDown last week, where you and I both thought he went a little bit over in terms of believability with that intensity there. I thought that was very interesting. They chose not to include any of that in their recap.
Yeah, and it's probably best that they didn't. But I mean, it wouldn't have hurt it if you edit it properly, just show a little bit, not the whole thing.
Well, and that's interesting. I mean, on Talking Smack last week, it just seems like they're always looking for something from Talking Smack to include in that opening segment. So I thought that was interesting. But speaking of editing, that segues nicely into the next segment. That video package, man, for Natalya and Nikki Bella. I feel like that editor just had a field day with the way he cut together those sound bites and all the different effects and the processing. That was a little over the top, even by WWE standards.
Yeah, but I actually didn't think too much about it when I saw it. I thought
it was great. I mean, just because it was so overly dramatic with the echo effect, and you're going to die alone, die alone, die alone. So it was a little cheesy there, but so I really liked. I have to say, I was surprised when Natalya attacked Nikki backstage. I mean, that was great. They were doing the typical, go to commercial, walk through the backstage area that we see, and boom, Natalya just hits her out of nowhere.
Yeah, I kind of like the way they handle this whole segment. Like I've said in the past, I don't like when guys that are feuding just trade wins every week. I like the build in their feud to lead to the eventual match, not just having the match right away. So I like that they didn't do the match. I like that they handled it this way with Natalya kind of beating down Nikki. And it was a good beatdown. So I thought this was a good, and it got away from the soap opera, kind of storylines that they've been doing with these two. So I liked it. I thought this was a good segment.
And what was different about this, I didn't notice until it was almost over, is that this, and I swear, I mean, it's weird to say this, but I like that Natalya did this heel beatdown, and she was relatively quiet through the entire thing. Because every time in the past, it sounded so forced when she does that sort of mocking taunt that she does during, it seems like it's very much not her. And so I love that she just, did the sharpshooter, did through all the moves, but didn't do it in that way that just, it was cringy to me in the past.
Yeah. And Natalya, her heel promos aren't the best. But yeah, like you said, her facials and stuff like that when she's, being a heel are great. Yeah. But Nikki, is it pretty much just underwear she's wearing at this point?
Well, they weren't the serious underwear. I describe it watching it to my wife. When she wears the matte black underwear, not the shiny ones, but the matte black ones, then she means business. But I think whenever she's doing something with a little more, pardon the pun, flair, I think then it's just for show.
Yeah, they seemed even shorter this week than usual.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing to me. I mean, you talk about during the Attitude Era what we had, but yeah, to be a teenage boy in this day and age, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Different times, man. Different times.
Do you remember when they first switched to the PG era and they had that women's summer battle royal, and they were all wearing these one piece grandma swimsuits?
Well, speaking of which, the grandma swimsuit made an appearance last night. We'll talk about that in a little bit with Carmella's match. That was an interesting throwback. But okay, so this looks like Dolph Ziggler versus Kalisto. Step down from where Dolph has been. I mean, he's been in the IC picture, in the main event title picture. So now he's doing with Kalisto. But that being said, how much of a step down is it when it seems like they're making this a front and center storyline? I mean, it was on Talking Smack last night. I feel like the company is, or creative is all in on Ziggler's descent into being a heel.
I guess if they are, you don't have him lose his first match as a heel.
Well, but I think that's what they're pushing, though, because you saw in Talking Smack the way that they were doing it. I don't know if you watched that last night. But
I did.
They seem to be doing it where it's like he's almost devolving, as it were.
Yeah, but once you turn heel, and this is like they did this with the Usos, and this is why a lot of the heel turns don't get over and face turns, is that immediately they have them lose, and especially to someone that's not a top guy, and it's just hard to get that momentum going. And you know, if and it's weird, you know, Ziggler turns heel and he's got a total babyface look. Like now he's clean shaven, neat ponytail, looks like a super nice guy. I mean, you know, he did do the vicious attack on Kalisto after it, but
with the chairs.
I don't think this heel turn's looking too promising. And we'll see how it goes. If Ziggler keeps snapping every week, but he keeps losing, then it's kind of like it balances it out, and you don't get that progression. You know, if he loses but then attacks, so we'll see. I think the right time to have done a heel turn with Ziggler was this past summer when he was feuding with Dean Ambrose. Yeah, I think it would have added a lot of pep to his feud with Ambrose and their SummerSlam match. But you know, I like that they turned him heel, but this first week didn't make him seem like he's going to be getting to the top level anytime soon with this turn.
I think what's interesting about it is his storyline. I mean, at least for the last 6 months, has been they're trying to really personally invest us in, you know, what's going on with Dolph Ziggler in his career. And it's interesting now that they're even using a lot of the justification, you know, in his interview and Talking Smack. I mean, similar to when he was going for the IC belt, saying he was going to walk away from the WWE if he lost. I think you're right that they have to give him some sort of win, some pot of gold at the end of this rainbow to make it be a payoff. But then when they did that with the IC title, I mean, that was for like 2 weeks that he held that. And then we're just right back to this. So I can almost see that he's going to keep losing until he fully embraces it. And then maybe he'll just have this rage unleashed and become, you know, a winning heel as a bad guy. But I don't know. I mean, they're giving a lot of attention to this, you know, a lot of attention to this storyline. And I think
I don't think there's that much more than anything else on the show.
Well, I feel like Dolph Ziggler keeps getting these chances. You know, I mean, they see him clearly as a mid-card guy, but I think that they're now. Granted, part of this could be what we've discussed before. What else do they got, right? I mean, you can't do this. Love to see. I want to see Apollo Crews go out there in 5 minutes on Talking Smack in character. I think that would be the most painful 5 minutes of WWE programming that we could see. But that's what I'm saying. Is like, who else are they going to focus on? You can make that argument, but I don't know. I feel like they're doing something with this character development more than we see typically. Yeah,
I mean, they are. I just don't. I just don't think it's headed to something big, like it could be. But we'll see. You know, this is only week 1, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But in the past, when we see guys losing a lot, it doesn't end up well. Yeah,
well, the bar's been set really low, Raj. I think Dolph is clearing that for the time being. So let's talk about the SmackDown Tag Team title match, the Wyatt family versus American Alpha in a rematch. So I have to say, I mean, I thought the match was really good for what it was. I mean, not the best American Alpha match ever, certainly not up there with what they were doing with the Revival in NXT. But that being said, you know, I like that they gave him some time to do this, even though when it seemed like the real crux of this was that the drama within the Wyatt family now with Randy and Luke having some beef and then Bray getting caught in the middle of that.
It looks like they're leading to Luke Harper turning face and getting out of the Wyatts, which I think is a good move. He's just been kind of the job guy. Him and Rowan have been the job guy for the Wyatts for so long that he, you know, I thought when he came back originally, you know, from injury that he should have turned face and just turned on Bray. But, you know, I think Luke Harper turning face is a good thing, but I think he also really needs to be repackaged if he does, because when he did his singles run the last time he split from the Wyatts, it didn't end up too successful.
I mean, what do they do with a guy like him? I mean, do they just end up going the Braun Strowman route? Do we get a sexy makeover, sexy Luke Harper?
You could just get rid of the janitor outfit, have him, do something more Bruiser Brody-ish, because that's what his character has kind of always been. He's always kind of looked like Bruiser Brody, so you could kind of go in that direction. Just give him, tights or something, and just change it up.
Yeah, I guess
just have him be more of a madman brawler. But there are different ways you could go.
Yeah, just take the potato sack off him, and at that point, it's not hard. Anything's a step up in terms of.
Yeah, same thing as Rowan. I think they got to change his, at least his outfit when he comes back, because I think right now it just screams like the job guy of the Wyatts.
Yeah. Oh man. So I mean, I think Bray versus Randy, I mean, that's how we got into this mess. I mean, do you think that's what they're going to go back to when this breaks down?
I hope not. I'd like to see Bray and Randy as a unit for a while, because I feel like it feels different. It feels fresh. When Bray was feuding with Randy before Randy joined him, it wasn't doing anyone any favors. Their main event, I think it was at No Mercy. Is that right? Whatever SmackDown pay-per-view it was, where it went last, because they had Cena and Styles go on first. It just stunk up the joint. No one cared. It was quiet. And so I don't know. I don't see it changing that much, even if, it turns out that Orton was against the Wyatts the whole time and turned on him. I just don't see fans getting invested in it.
Yeah. So speaking of trying to get people invested in it, what did you think of the way they did that promo for Baron Corbin? Essentially using his NXT promo, the video package they've had forever on him, and just that little voiceover about John Cena. I thought that was an interesting way to try and freshen that up and do something different.
Yeah, the thing that I thought made it kind of comical was when they said Baron Corbin, created this video or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're supposed to think this guy's this big badass, and he's, working with the editors to create this video. Just cut to it. But the promo itself, I thought was fine.
That's what it should be. Anytime they say someone created it, they go and it just looks like it was done on Windows Movie Maker or just like default PowerPoint.
Well, even if it's professionally made, when they're like, we made this video and they cut to it, and it's it's clearly the production staff, and it should be, but it just kills the realness, I guess, of it.
It's a good thing that most of the fan base doesn't strain their brains as much in trying to reconcile kayfabe with the realities of putting on a weekly television show. But I think that, I know I've harped on that before, but it's the same thing like American Alpha and the Wyatt family. Like, that's not even in the same universe. I mean, like, the match was pretty good, but that being said, like, that's like seeing a villain from an Aquaman comic, fighting the X-Men. Like, it doesn't mesh.
No, it's interesting how quiet the crowd was, and they even booed, Jason Jordan's hot tag. I don't know if you caught on that. So they've still, even after winning the titles, they've lost a lot of steam that they haven't really gotten back. That promo that they had earlier before the match was I just thought it was so brutal. Did you listen to that?
Yeah, it was. See, I feel tough criticizing or hating on American Alpha at all, because I've told the story before, but I loved what they did in NXT. Just following that as a watcher, seeing them come together as a duo and triumph as a duo finally at TakeOver Dallas was such a rewarding moment in sports entertainment. And since then, they've squandered that. It again proves what we talk about all the time. The journey is far more interesting than the destination.
Which just the stuff they're giving these guys for promos is just bad. Like this promo that they did just sounded way too like eloquent. You know what I mean? Like, it sounded like they were entering a spelling bee competition.
Where's the towel? They finally merchandised the goddamn towel, and now we're not getting the Ready, Willing, and Gable thing anymore.
Who would buy the towel right now that, there's like a pin drop for their matches? So
had it been the original towel, had they not redesigned the towel, if it had been the original towel, I would have bought 10 of them.
Yeah, I don't know. They need to get more over before you'll see a lot of their merch around. But the writers need to work on those promos, or give them a little leeway to kind of come up with stuff on their own and find their own characters.
Yeah, I mean, they got to do something. I don't know if they. I mean, it seems like they're going to keep the belts on them for a little while. now, especially if we're going to see Wyatt turmoil sort of take over that half of the storyline. I mean, I don't know. What do they do? I mean, do they bring back Slater and Rhino for another run? Do they finally give the Usos? I mean, the Usos, I guess, due to injury and a few other factors, have sort of been denied having a real.
No, the Usos should be back soon. So my guess is that they stick with the Wyatts for the time being. But Usos is natural, but you kind of have no one else really after that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Was on Reddit, has Simon Gotch been teasing something for the Vaudevillains? Have you heard anything about them coming up, like a repackaging or some sort of change?
No. I mean, it would be good for them, but
yeah.
The problem is when you repackage someone that's so low on the card, like they did with Fandango, he kind of kept that dancer gimmick, but had new music and had Rosa Mendes there for a cup of tea, and then was back off of TV, and now he's this fashion police. They usually don't repackage you as a main event guy. Bray Wyatt was Husky Harris, and he was gone for years before he became he repackaged and came back as somebody that meant something. But usually when they repackage a lower card act, they're usually at the same spot.
I think SmackDown, though, has a bit of that NXT charm. I mean, SmackDown, as we've seen in the ratings, it can beat Raw, but let's face it, it's not going to beat Raw most weeks.
Yeah, so, that week was, Raw was on New Year's Day, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the day after. So it's still kind of New Year's weekend, and SmackDown was packed. But I think this week kind of showed that WWE still looks at Raw as their go-to show, because they could have easily just had Shawn Michaels on Raw and Undertaker make that same announcement on SmackDown.
Yeah,
there was no reason for Undertaker's announcement to have to be on Raw. So I think it kind of shows that they still view as Raw as where they're going to have the big surprises, big returns, and things like that.
I think for the longevity of SmackDown, to make sure that it just doesn't keep, spinning its wheels, I think SmackDown is like, the new NXT, the new safe space where they can experiment more and try more. And I think they've done that to an extent, but I think that they can do that more, to where if they wanted to build the Vaudevillains as a credible tag team, I think they could do that on SmackDown. I don't think they're going to in danger of losing the audience. I think Raw audiences are more fickle.
I agree, but that's kind of what they did with SmackDown last time.
Yeah.
And the problem is when they get that mentality, then they start looking at Raw as the big show and SmackDown as kind of the development show. And, you start seeing all the top guys on Raw, the guys, they're, the secondary guys on SmackDown, except for Taker, was how it was before. And then it leads to a lack of interest. So I think, really it's going to take, Vince basically, trying to make SmackDown equal and not kind of go back to just kind of putting everything on Raw. And this would have been the week to do it with having Undertaker again. Just having him on SmackDown, since it didn't matter. He didn't have a Raw specific announcement anyway.
Well, before the new era started, SmackDown was, for a long time, just like a notch above main event and superstars, in terms of being another Raw recap with some,
it was Raw rematches and other matches that didn't mean anything.
Yeah, so I think they it's not getting stale, but I think it's in danger of getting stale if they don't find a way just to mix some of these matchups up a bit more. And if they don't build this other half of the card that, clearly, is a significant portion of the roster, the undercard. But let's talk about they did the announcement. They had backstage of WrestleMania 34 coming to New Orleans. Backstage, we got an announcement. Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss cage match next week. I thought it was interesting how they were hyping that up as first time on SmackDown with the women's division, but clearly not going overboard in how historic it was the way they did with Raw and Hell in a Cell with Sasha and Charlotte.
Yeah. So so the person that Alexa Bliss wrestled was independent wrestler Thunder Kitty.
Carmella,
sorry. Yeah. It was Thunder Kitty who had wrestled for Shimmer and 0-1.
Yeah. And definitely doing a throwback in terms of her look in that segment.
Yeah, it was meant to be comedy, but
No, I mean it was okay for what it was. Actually, I'll say this: one thing I noticed about Thunder Kitty's technique. I mean, she can take a flat back bump. That was perfect. I mean, she was just doing that like she's been drilling that, 24/7. But I thought,
She's been wrestling for like 10 years.
yeah, no, I mean, I thought that was apparent that she definitely had some skills. That yeah, but the outfit was something else. JBL was doing her no favors on commentary there. But I thought, for what it was, Carmella and Ellsworth, I mean, they're committed to this. SmackDown's all in. And I like that. I like that SmackDown seems to really just, good or bad, if they get us saying we're going to do this, we're not seeing, with the exception of Kurt Hawkins, SmackDown has not really dropped stuff quickly. They seem to give things a chance to breathe, as it were, good or bad. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Carmella and Ellsworth next week in their ongoing saga. But yeah, I thought Carmella's match, it was what it was. It would have been nice though. I mean, have you heard what's up with Naomi? We haven't seen her on TV in a while.
She had been injured, so I don't know if she's cleared to return yet.
Gotcha, that makes sense.
Yeah. Even if she is, usually because Tamina's been cleared, it takes a while for the creative to come up with stuff for these women to do when everyone's kind of locked in a feud already. So I have a feeling if she is cleared or if she's close to being cleared, we probably wouldn't see her probably for another month at least.
God, Tamina coming back would be really interesting on Raw. I don't know that they would give her this push, but I mean, Tamina seems like would be the most credible threat against Nia Jax.
Yeah, I thought she would have been a good stepping stone for Nia Jax to get to Sasha as opposed to going to Sasha right away.
Yeah. No, that should be interesting. What's up with Eva Marie? I'm probably the only person wondering that.
She had been filming a movie. Now, I mean, she's cleared to return. They could bring her back anytime, I think. I mean, that's just, there's no rhyme or reason why she isn't back yet.
Yeah, I mean, especially because those bitches, like, it's not like she has to wrestle. I mean, they can just do the standard appearance that they've been doing with her.
Yeah, but if you put her in a feud, there's like no one that's kind of open right now.
Yeah. So let's talk about the main event. God, and this is the thing, people. We talk about this each week about how Raw 3 hours seems like it goes so long. Raj and I have been talking about this 15 minutes recapping SmackDown, and boom, we're already to the main event. That's how.
And this was interesting because usually the main event starts at 9:30. Like they usually leave a half hour. Here they had you had 10 minutes left and it hadn't gone yet. Which, for all things considered, it was probably the right move.
Yeah, so Baron Corbin versus John Cena with AJ Styles on commentary. I agree with you that a short main event was good in this case, except that with the way that it was paced, I don't know if it was originally meant to be a longer match. I don't know what the intention was, but Corbin seemed to, dominate, showcase for him for about 6 minutes, and then boom, we had the return of Super Cena. It's like 3 moves and it's over.
Yeah, it seemed weird that they've been building Corbin and to just have him lose clean like that. They gave Corbin a lot. Yeah. I can't tell if this is a case where he was really elevated by just being in the ring with Cena. Maybe he was a little just because he is with the top guy but with AJ there on commentary, I think you could have easily done a DQ if you don't want to beat Cena, done something instead of beating Corbin off the bat when you've been pushing him.
Yeah, I mean, Corbin said this before, top 5 guys in terms of who had the best 2016 as far as their ascent. I mean, he's at this level now where he got the match against Cena. He got, I don't really want to call it a storyline, but at least, they built it a bit. This wasn't just some one-off jobber match. I mean, there was a build-up to it. So I think, I don't know, what do you do with Corbin from here? I mean,
you just keep building him. I mean, that's what they will be doing. I think there's other guys they should build before Corbin, but it's clear they see Corbin as a big star or a potential, big star. So, I don't think this really does anything to change their trajectory with him.
Yeah. So the other big news,
I could almost see him being, well, no, it'll probably be Braun Strowman. But, every year in the Royal Rumble, there's that one guy who's dominant and gets a bunch of eliminations but doesn't win.
Yeah.
It'll probably be Braun Strowman, but I was saying you could have Corbin be that guy.
Corbin versus Strowman, that's a inner brand pre-show match, if I've ever.
That's the one I wouldn't want to see, at least not right now.
Yeah. So who else is in the Rumble at this point? Based on last time we saw Ziggler announced. Did the Miz say he's going in?
Ziggler, Miz, and Ambrose were the new guys added.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think. I mean, if Corbin isn't announced, I don't know how. I mean,
Corbin's in.
Corbin's in. Okay.
Yeah, he was announced last week, I think. Yeah, last week.
Really interesting. I mean, we talked about this before, but I mean, this is pretty stacked compared to.
It is.
I
can't remember the last time Taker was in the Rumble. You know, Goldberg, it's been a decade. Lesnar, it's been a decade, I think. I don't think Lesnar's been in the Rumble since he's been back. He's always, you know, when he's there, he's usually a singles match. Or no, I take that back. I think there was one, maybe it was last year, actually. Was it last year he was in the Rumble and got eliminated by the Wyatts?
Maybe.
So anyway, but yeah, they really are stacking this year's Rumble match, which I think is great because there's just way more possibilities this year to win it than in the years before.
Yeah, no, it could go a lot of different directions. I think, you know, so after the match ended, we had a little face off there with Cena and Styles, and I mean, they're building that. What do you make of this? Now, I know promotional materials don't mean a lot, right? Because I mean, we've seen, you know, in the past, like Santino or Eva Marie on posters for pay-per-views. But if you look at the Royal Rumble poster, I mean, like AJ Styles way in the back there, you know, the champion, not really pushed front and center for this pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's odd because he is the champion. You know, they're the flagship champion, really, because that's, you know, their oldest title going in. So, I mean, look, that poster, it's, you know, people, who was it that criticized me last Monday saying I think like Vince? I'm like, no, it's not thinking like Vince. This is how the company thinks. You know who the company thinks are the stars. So you know who they're going to put in the big matches at WrestleMania. And this poster shows it. I mean, this is, you know, what they think. If you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, you could look on our Instagram at Wrestling Inc. or on WrestlingInc.com. We have a post. It says photo, which WWE stars are featured on the new 2017 Royal Rumble poster. In the front, you got Goldberg, John Cena, The Undertaker, Brock Lesnar. And then once you go to the next row, you got Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, Charlotte. Pretty much, so the front two rows, you got one SmackDown guy. And then you got Dean Ambrose kind of peeking in. And then, yeah, AJ Styles all the way in the back with Sasha Banks, Rich Swann, you know, Dolph Ziggler. So, I mean, this is, you know, I don't think they think that Charlotte's a bigger star than AJ per se, but and they like to put, you know, some diversity on their posters. So I think they wanted to have a woman, you know, up front more. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a blueprint to show you who they see as the big stars, and the big stars are the ones that get the key WrestleMania matches.
Yeah, it's very, very telling. Sami Zayn didn't even make the poster. What's up with that?
Right, yeah.
But yeah, Bayley way in the back there.
Well, Bayley, I could see. I mean, Bayley, you know, Miz, New Day, they would be farther back. Yeah, I can't see them, you know, farther in front than these guys, but you know, Styles should be in front of Dean Ambrose. He should be, you know, probably where Charlotte or Roman Reigns is, or, you know, move. I don't know. I mean, that front row, you really do want to advertise Undertaker and Goldberg and Lesnar. So
yeah,
the front row might be, I mean, it's probably the way to go, but.
And then Neville way in the back.
Yeah, but you could squeeze him in a little, add Styles and you know, add Styles and Owens in the front as well. So it doesn't just look like all part-timers in the front.
Yeah. Do you think that when creative decides to put someone on the poster, they're always of the mindset that we'll just put Sin Cara or Kalisto because we just need one lucha there? People won't even know which one it is.
Maybe.
They're like, it takes up space. We just need one. But yeah, it's very interesting and perhaps telling to see this poster and the way that it's laid out. I'm curious what the other matches are going to be for this. I mean, I know we've got Cena and Styles, we've got Owens and Reigns. Those the only ones that are officially announced now for the Rumble?
No, also Neville and Rich Swann.
That's right, Neville and Rich Swann. So yeah, we'll probably have a tag match in there, and I'll be curious how much they go on this. The Rumble is usually not the biggest card because the Rumble itself being, you know, such a draw, but this in the era of the 4-hour pay-per-view with the 2-hour pre-show,
And also, real quick, Charlotte Bailey. So all title matches so far.
Gotcha. Yeah. So they only really need maybe one or two more. And that's at full capacity. If the Rumble, I mean, I can't imagine with this much talent, this Rumble's gonna go for less than an hour. Can you?
Probably not.
Yeah. 1 hour, 9 minutes. The record.
Yeah, I think I mean, probably not as in it. It's probably not going to be under an hour, but
yeah. Case could be made that this could be the longest Rumble, but let's take a moment right now and thank a sponsor of this episode, which is DDP Yoga. You've heard us talk about it before this week with Mick Foley with that new haircut. Man, can you tell that dude has dropped some weight and turned his life around? And how did he do it? With DDP Yoga. Many of the past and current roster have benefited immensely from it. We're talking guys like Goldust, Chris Jericho, credits DDP Yoga with the amazing shape that he's in. So it's 2017. It's January 11th as we record this. Do you know the year is already like 2% over? When you look back at the end of 2017 and say, what did I do with my year? What am I doing with my life? You're going to want to say, I took control of it with DDP Yoga, got in shape, took control of my health, and we have a deal for you today to get started. Here's what I want you to do. Head on over to ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. So when you use our link, you can get the DDPY DVDs for 25% off, and that includes 3 months of full access to the DDP Yoga Now app. Or if you're digital only, you can just get the app for 25% off. That's the DDP Yoga Now app. It's got workouts. It's got motivational messages from Diamond Dallas Page himself. It's got ways to make healthy food taste amazing. You're going to want to get hooked up with this. And a special additional deal, you can buy a Max or Combo Pack at 25% off and get 50% off a second one. Partner up with a friend. Win 2017 with DDP Yoga. Go to ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. And we thank them for sponsoring the show. So yeah, all in all, man, like I'm really looking forward to the Royal Rumble. I can't believe it's at the very end of the month. Do you just think it was a sort of a scheduling thing? I mean, they're trying to look. I mean, this is going to be like the biggest gap in this.
It is every year. It's always on the off week of the playoffs of the NFL.
Yeah, because between the playoffs and the Super Bowl. Yeah. But doesn't it feel weird now in this new era? This is like such a lengthy break. We're going 6 weeks between pay-per-views.
Yeah, it's been kind of nice actually. you know, like because you've been I don't know about you, but I almost forget when there's a pay-per-view now, and you know, on certain weekend. I'm like, I have to remind myself constantly, like, oh, there's a SmackDown pay-per-view this weekend. No, I feel like this, you know, this feels like a big deal.
I feel like the overabundance of constantly promoting them makes it so I can never forget that there's one coming up because
they start. I feel like they start blending in though. When you got a Raw pay-per-view and then a SmackDown like 2 weeks later, you just kind of, you know, the names start. You forget like if Roadblock is Raw or SmackDown, and you know which is which. But
my favorite though was before Survivor Series, where they were like, sign up for the network now, and in that free 30 days, you're gonna get Survivor Series, then TLC, and then Roadblock end of the line, where it's like, man, they're promoting 2 ahead now, you know, because they're coming at us that fast.
Yeah, totally. There's a point of diminishing returns, and we'll, you know, Royal Rumble is always, you know, one of the, you know, it's the number 2 pay-per-view of the year, you know, behind WrestleMania. And, you know, in my book, for myself personally, it's my second or third most anticipated pay-per-views, you know, between this WrestleMania and Wrestle Kingdom, which this year's I'm watching today, this afternoon. I made some time, so I'm gonna finally get around to watching it. But yeah, it's so I'm pumped for it.
I think for me, the Rumble, actually, you know, probably, I love the Rumble. I mean, I love gimmick matches, but I think Money in the Bank. I think Money in the Bank, just the concept of that when done right, is a fantastic match.
Yeah, there's just something about the Rumble though that, and you know, again, in terms of fan interest, it is the number 2 pay-per-view of the year by far.
Yeah, but great news though, Raj, is that, you know, just 2 weeks later after the Rumble, we're gonna have Elimination Chamber, and then 3 weeks after that, it looks like Fastlane.
Yeah, and Goldberg will be at Fastlane. So some people speculating that he might be wrestling Brock Lesnar at Fastlane and then probably do a third at WrestleMania. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I just don't see it.
Yeah,
I almost see like a tag match or something, but at the same time, Goldberg does cost a lot of money per appearance, so you don't want to squander it, you know, with no return. So you never know. Or you could do. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, well, that's why I'm curious about the Rumble. And I said this when it was originally, because I mean, they were the first entrants announced, Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. How do you get your money's worth without them just taking over that match?
Well, yeah. I mean, I could almost see them eliminating each other. Like it comes down to them, like it towards the middle of the Rumble.
Yeah.
They go out at, they get it, go at it. A couple guys come in, they immediately throw them out, and keep going at it. And then, either they're both like tangled in the ropes and Braun Strowman throws them out, something like that, a finish like that. I don't see either of them winning the Rumble, but I do see them both being eliminated at the same time.
Yeah, it could go any number of ways, and it'll be very interesting to see how they do for it. I think that's it. I mean, I feel like we talked about this. So many people being named now in the Rumble, so many top guys that it's just like storytelling. It's like spinning a roulette wheel at this point. Normally, WWE booking, I feel like, is a coin toss in terms of the number of ways things can go. But with this, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of questions about the Rumble, so we can get some of those. Did we have anything else before we got to the questions?
Just talking smack quickly last night.
Yeah, let's go through that real quick.
So we had talking smack. We had Dolph Ziggler come out at the end of the show, and I don't know. I sort of tuned out and glossed over at that point because I felt like it was about the time when he actually quoted that I've got to do this for myself because no one's going to do it for me. And I was like, okay, he's just taking Tommaso and Ciampa's T-shirt verbatim at this point in his little,
I just thought that promo was so lame. It's just what he's always been saying. We've heard it we've heard it 1,000 times. I think he should have just come out in a cocky heel, said like no one's safe. I'm done with this. I'm done being the nice guy, and then that's it. Just storm off. He just turned heel. He just attacked these guys with a chair, and then he's all somber and feeling sorry for himself. And it just didn't vibe. I will say this: you see a big difference in Talking Smack when Daniel Bryan's co-hosting. As opposed to Shane McMahon or The Miz. Daniel Bryan really makes that show because I thought it was very kind of very by the numbers with Shane.
Shane has got the sort of I mean, I like Shane a lot, but maybe it's because he's got a weird sort of David Naughton quality. But yeah, something about him is just he's pleasant, he's affable, but it's just I don't know, he doesn't have that same oh my god, I don't care what I say because what are they going to do? Fire me energy that Daniel Bryan has. But that being said, Alexa and Becky last night, delightful. Including another little reference we've talked about. They've pushed the bar with some of the stuff they've said in Talking Smack, whether it's Daniel Bryan fisting or insinuating that James Ellsworth is packing. And then last night, Becky ending the Alexa segment with "See you next Tuesday," which brilliant that they worked that in there. But yeah, I have to say for me, the big revelation last night was Mojo Rawley. And one thing that was interesting in that we had sort of a toned down Mojo talking about how he's going to refine his look and telling his story. But did you look at the way Shane was looking at Mojo during that? Because you could just sort of tell like, okay, well, you know what, Shane, we don't know his actual power, but Shane just looked in love with the guy.
I didn't get that, but I think it's a step in the right direction with Mojo basically saying that he's going to tone it down more or less joking, less dancing. It's getting rid of the Zubas. So that's great. That's one of the things that's been killing me with him as a babyface is that his personality just makes me unable to connect with him. And so
I love it. I got 2 pairs of Zubas for Christmas. Put them on my wish list. Why? Because Mojo Rawley wore them, and I said, yes, those are the pants I need to own.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, if they tone him down to the extent where he's just a boring guy, then that's not going to help either. We'll just see where they go with it. But I think Mojo, he's got the look. He had a pretty dominating match on SmackDown a couple weeks ago where it looked like he can be a star. So we'll give it time and see where they go with it.
And it's definitely needed right now. We could use someone like Mojo in the mid card at the very least to provide some more real competition.
I could see Mojo higher up on the card with changing his gimmick up, getting rid of that really annoying persona, and
which apparently is based on who he actually is,
right?
Which I think is hilarious.
Yeah, but when you're basing your character on who you are, accentuate the positives and hide the negatives.
I don't know, man. I don't know any other grown man that's so excited about drinking Pedialyte, you know, and just has that crazy enthusiasm for everything. But the other news for that, lastly, on the Talking Smack front is, I mean, the way they were talking about it, man, like, so Ryder is out for the foreseeable future. He's out for a while now.
Yeah, he's out for a while. The other big, you know, I wouldn't say big thing, but Dolph Ziggler asked to be in the Royal Rumble, and Shane McMahon obliged. Real quick, 205 Live. Okay, real quick. Well, what did you think was the better show this week between SmackDown and Raw?
SmackDown. Not hard to do with this week's Raw. I mean, I think looking at the information guide on my cable system was a better show than Raw.
I thought SmackDown this week was very average.
Definitely not the best SmackDown, but still better, just better than Raw, including Talking Smack into the equation, of course.
Yeah, but I felt like this was one of those weeks where I agree. I thought SmackDown was better than Raw, but again, this was one of those weeks where I felt like a big part of that was because SmackDown was 2 hours. And at 2 hours, I was kind of done with it, but the show was done. And I had a hard time switching to 205 Live because I was just kind of done at that point. It didn't leave me wanting more. I just felt it was a very average episode. And then, yeah, this week it was just one of those occurrences where SmackDown has an inherent advantage with being 2 hours, and it packs more in and doesn't drag as much as Raw does. But 205 Live, I don't know if you caught it.
No.
Big thing saying taking it lightly, but Cedric Alexander lost to Noam Dar. This is like the 5th time they've wrestled over the past few weeks. Alicia Fox had to cost him the match, so he dumped her backstage. She flipped out. And then at the end of the show, Rich Swann beat Tony Nese. And after the match, Neville came out and, you know, kind of said he wants the cruiserweight title. Swan basically said, name the time or place, and it's at the Royal Rumble. So I hope they don't put this on the pre-show. I could easily see them doing that. But the Rich Swann Tony Nese match was good. Cool. And the Jack Gallagher Arya Daivari segment I thought was entertaining, but the crowd was just dead.
I think that's a problem that they have a lot of the time, is specifically, you know, just it's tough, man. I mean, especially being a SmackDown taping, because it does move so fast. Like, and so in fact, it moves so fast. I mean, they typically have dark matches after SmackDown, or they were, and now it's like, okay, we're going to bring out the cruiserweights. Like, I mean, how do you get people to stay through that?
I've said this, it's a beaten drum now, but I've said it so many times that they need to tape it before SmackDown goes on the air when the crowd's hot.
Yeah.
And, I interviewed Sean Waltman. The first part is up on the site, but he was talking about that, and just put it so great on why they need to do that, because it's really hurting the show. I mean, it would be a better show if you called it 205 taped and taped it before and piped in crowd noise where you needed it, because the silence from the crowd hurts the show a lot.
Or they should do something interesting. Open up ringside. I mean, like, I know they'd have a security issue, but let it,
well, they do that. They do that. They bring the crowd as much as they can into the empty seats at the front.
Oh no, I was gonna say let them stand around the ring. I mean, like,
oh geez, no, you can't do that.
But think about what the feel would look. Someone's gonna really bust in on a cruiserweight match.
You can't go to the outside of the ring. Then that's a big liability issue.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
The big thing with the cruiserweights is, doing high flying moves, going to the outside, stuff like that. So.
But you don't know what I'm saying, though. I'm saying don't do it in this big venue.
Right.
Whereas I would find some way to make it more intimate.
I think you should add an extra day of tapings at Full Sail and just tape, when you do the NXT tapings, do 205 Live the day before, or even before NXT, and, do half 205 Live, half NXT, and the next day do the same. And I think it would be a lot hotter crowd.
Or when it gets warmer out, do it in the freaking parking lot. I mean, have people pre-show, but you know what I mean? Like, create a different
give it. I understand giving it a different atmosphere, but you got a lot of safety concerns and things like that, and just zoning permits and all that kind of stuff. And that's why I think you could do it if you did it at Full Sail. You saw with the Cruiserweight Classic, the crowd was hot. It made the show, so there's no reason you can't just do that again. I'd like to see a completely different atmosphere, something how ECW used to have. But I don't see them ever going that way.
It's like did you ever go to when you go to an arena rock show, like you go see Kiss live, right? And then it's like, but before Kiss, we're gonna have this like indie no name nothing band play, and they're playing with the arena lights. The house lights are still on, and they had to set up their equipment in front of Kiss's tarped off equipment and do their own little show there to a half empty arena. I feel like 205 Live has that feel like, well, this isn't the real show. This isn't what you came to see. And they need to find some way to make that more dynamic. But let's take some of these questions we have about the Rumble, including one saying, do we think we could see a 40-man Rumble?
I don't see it. No, I think they could easily do it. But I think they've already said 30 man so many times that I don't see them changing it now. Yeah, they could easily change it and just say, well, this year we're going to make it even better and do 40 man. But it really, at that point, all you're going to have be put in is guys that aren't going to win. You know, all the realistic guys that are going to win pretty much been announced.
Yeah.
Someone's asking if we see Kurt Angle returning at the Royal Rumble. You know what? I think that's a sleeper. I think there's a good chance that could happen. Kurt Angle's been telling people that he can't do indie dates, you know, starting April. So I could see him returning as a surprise.
Second most speculated name. I think Kurt Angle and Ty Dillinger are on the internet, the two names. That
Samoa Joe, I've been hearing a lot too.
Yeah.
And Samoa Joe's another one. You know, he lost the title back. He had been injured. He is advertised for NXT live events in February, but as we've seen before, people get called up. They still finish their NXT commitments and then, you know, come back. So I think most likely I could see Samoa Joe. I wouldn't want to see Ty Dillinger. I just don't know how much of that crowd at the Alamo Dome would know who he was. And I don't want to see him come in and flop, but it would be funny to see him come in at number 10. And, you know, was it last year they did Sami Zayn and one other NXT guy, didn't they?
Sami Zayn and AJ. That's all I remember.
Okay. And then maybe it was the year before they did like Rusev or maybe the year, I'm forgetting.
The precedent's been set.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, though, if I had to pick three of the most likely pool, it would be Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, and Ty Dillinger. Maybe Sid Vicious. It might be a cool surprise, but those would be the three.
Yeah, just some surprises would be good. I mean, I don't know. What are you hearing about as far as new talent signings or?
I mean, they're signing guys all over the place, but, you know, for the UK championship and, you know, things like that. But I mean, nothing huge.
So that's coming up this weekend. Now, obviously, sites like Wrestling Inc. are going to be covering that UK championship. But for the more casual fan, when it's not on their radar, what should people look for and why should they? I mean, is there any big thing that people should be interested in with that UK championship on the network this weekend?
I mean, it'll be, I don't know. It's just more programming, you know.
But it's kind of weird though, right? Because I mean, it's like it's
their
deal.
way to kind of take over the UK market because you know other people are trying to make strands and yeah, so it's just more TV that's a lot of people will be skipping.
Well, that's a good question. I want to know any UK fans that are listening to this podcast or on the Wrestling Inc. website, like, are you seeing this advertised like crazy? Because we're seeing it mentioned here in the US and WWE programming, but I mean, I literally almost forgotten completely that was coming up this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this might be. I mean, I don't know if this is just one step to then doing something like a Japanese championship, setting up like a weekly show there, and kind of creating, you know, kind of these mini brands, and then people get pulled up from those, you know, into WWE. I mean, Shane McMahon, you know, that was an idea he had like 7 years ago. I mean, they opened up an office, gosh, I want to say China. Back then that ended up being closed down. Now they're, you know, kind of back in China, but, you know, he wanted to set up a bunch of like mini companies that feed into WWE. And this could be the first step into that. So it potentially could be a big deal. I don't see any buzz over it this weekend. We are going to be covering it on Wrestling Inc. But yeah, I don't, you know, we'll see. There's just so much wrestling now. And I look at Lucha Underground and the lack of interest for that now. You know, we used to, you look at Raw on our site and it's getting like 5,000 comments or something. Lucha Underground's maybe getting 20.
What happened there? I mean, there was so much buzz about that. Everybody was talking about it, and then they're like, oh, we got Ray coming, and then just nothing. Crickets for like the last 6 months. Yeah,
it's just, I think the novelty is worn off. And once the novelty is worn off, you need to have the storylines that grip people in. I just don't feel like they have that.
Yeah, and the El Rey Network, I don't know if you've ever watched it. wasn't even where my cable system carried it, but they do in non-HD. And I mean, they have like From Dusk Till Dawn, the series, and Lucha, and like Knight Rider reruns. I mean, there's nothing.
Yeah, it's like Pop TV. There's not there's not a whole lot. Real quick, a couple more of these questions. So someone's asking, do you see The Rock returning at the Royal Rumble? Nope. No. Do you think AJ Styles will retain as champion, knowing that Cena is going to take another break after Mania, or will Cena win the title at the Royal Rumble? My thing is, I don't see both. I mean, it seems like both Reigns and Cena are primed to go into WrestleMania as champions. But will they do both title changes at the Rumble, especially when they got 2 pay-per-views coming up just weeks after? So I could see them doing one title change, doing a schmaz finish for the other, and doing the rematch at the next pay-per-view. But I do see Reigns and Cena going into WrestleMania as champion. What do you think?
I mean, I could see it. I'm not excited about it, but it's possible. I think with Cena, like, what's up with this character now? So this whole recognize thing, okay, that's the new catchphrase. But I mean, I really liked what they were doing with him before. We talked about this. I mean, like, I think that they did him as just such a true, natural face, in the face of all the criticism he gets, talking about how much he loves the company and the passion for the company. And now it's okay. So he's not a heel, but it's almost like he's blatantly waving in our faces all the reasons why people haven't liked John Cena. I mean, it's very strange to me. So it's like he's if you could be an anti-hero, I mean, he's truly like an anti-hero, like the anti-face.
Not really. I mean, I think he's ultra baby face, which causes older fans to hate that because, he's 2 steps away from train, say your prayers, and take your vitamins. But
I don't think it's even that. I think this actually reminds me of like the weird Hogan phase before Hogan turned heel.
This reminds me of Bret Hart, where Bret Hart was a heel in the U.S. but was babyface everywhere in the world. It's like Cena is a face to kids and heel to everyone else. And face to kids and heel to everyone else. But I don't see anything that much different from what he's doing now. It's a little more heelish, a little bit more cocky, but he needs to tweak his character a little bit here and there, but it's nothing drastic to where I feel like a heel turn's coming or anything like that.
When he gave that promo before SummerSlam, talking about how he loved the company, the smarkiest people I know on Facebook were going on about that promo, talking about how it made them misty-eyed and made them feel like, this was like watching wrestling in their youth. I mean, just that complete mark out moment of just like, okay, this guy really believes it, and I really believe that he believes it. But yeah, like I'm not getting that vibe from him now. It's like there's that little, not smugness, but I don't know. It's just, it almost reminds me a little bit like shades of not quite thugonomics, but like early John Cena with like that sort of cocky arrogance. Like I don't know. I don't know if it's clear of a read on it as where he was 6 months ago.
Yeah, I think he's going to be in the same spot. He's a baby face, and he's just tweaking his promos a little. Someone's asking, do you see Roman Reigns defeating Kevin Owens at Royal Rumble? Either, and main eventing WrestleMania again. I think he will defeat Owens either there or at Elimination Chamber. No, I mean at Fastlane. But I think he will go into WrestleMania as champ, but he won't. I don't think it'll main event the show. I don't see any potential Reigns match that seems like a show closer. Well, let's see. Do you think Aries returns at the Rumble? I don't think he'll be healed by then. Plus, it's clear they're pegging him for the cruiserweight division, so I don't know if he might, but I wouldn't do it.
I think Aries also, I mean, on commentary, every time I've heard him, I think he's been really good. I think that his ring work is good, but the problem is that how many guys can you have their gimmick be that like, oh, I'm the best in this business? On the ladder, even of guys who that's their gimmick, I don't think he's even in the top 5 in utilizing that gimmick properly.
Well, he hasn't done it on a big stage yet. I think he's got the persona that he can be a big star, but it's clear he's pegged for the cruiserweight division. It'll be interesting because Neville is super hot right now as a heel. And Aries, I mean, his personality really fits being a heel. So, I mean, that to me is your WrestleMania match for the cruiserweight title is Neville and Aries, but I think you'd almost have to turn Aries babyface for that one because I think Neville is almost a more effective heel right now.
I think Aries has a problem. Like, do you remember like 10 years ago when Lindsay Lohan was a thing and then Emma Stone came along and everyone was like, well, Lindsay Lohan's got her issues. So America's in love with Emma Stone now. We're going to give her all those roles for a sassy redhead. Bobby Roode did that to Austin Aries. I think Bobby Roode came along and went, oh, hey, this is a better version of what Austin Aries was doing. And Austin Aries has got his injury thing. We're going to focus on Bobby Roode now. I feel like he's just overshadowed him completely.
Yeah, but again, Aries is in a different division, most likely. So,
yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. Do you guys see WWE having another 40-man Royal Rumble like in 2011? I could see it. I don't think it'll be this year, but I think it just was it. Did they do like 90 seconds between people coming in?
Maybe it was 2 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think it was 2 minutes with the 40. I thought they did 90. I feel like they've done 90 seconds before. And let's look it up. Royal Rumble 2011. The problem with the 90 seconds was I felt like it was too fast. And I think if they did 40-man, they'd probably go to that 90-second format. And
wouldn't it be awesome if they just did the Rumble for the pay-per-view one year and it was literally just the Rumble match for 3 hours? Like just 3 hour nonstop. You wouldn't dig that? Just a 3 hour nonstop continuous storytelling of just guys coming in, guys going out, and we just had like three. I mean, like as far as an experiment, oh my god, I would love to watch that.
I don't agree with that. But yeah. So anyway, I just think with the 2 minutes, it builds better to the next entrant, and so I think 30-man is perfect.
You think we're going to see Kane continue his streak of the most Rumble appearances and have
probably
this year?
Yeah, for sure. I could see him.
This will be 20 out of 30 if he does this year.
Yeah. See any others? Who do you prefer, DX or the Young Bucks? Oh, geez, that's like apples and oranges.
Which era of DX? Because I think the 2000 DX, that was pretty sweet, right, guys?
Yeah, I mean, 1997, 1998, when Shawn and Triple H, I wish they had their run longer, but Shawn got injured. But I thought they were just fantastic. And with the X-Pac and the New Age Outlaws, they're at a time when the business changed and just got hot as hell. So it's very different. But Young Bucks are great in the ring. They do a lot of spectacular stuff, so it's just way different.
I'll say this though,
WWE Hall of Fame this year.
Oh,
what do you think?
Well, so we got Diamond Dallas Page. Who was the second one that was announced?
Rick Rude.
Rick Rude.
So I guess Rick Rude being in means that Chyna probably is not going to be in. They usually only do one dead celebrity per year. That's kind of their thing. They don't want to make it a somber thing, so that's what I'm guessing. And they usually do a woman, but if I'm guessing it might be someone like Tori Wilson or something like that.
Oh, Tori would be good. Yeah, I mean, who else are the big notables that aren't in there? I mean, we talked about that they could, if The Rock were coming back, I mean, they could do someone like The Rock. I
think Rock will be the headliner this year.
Yeah, I think they might need it. Still curious how sales are going this year compared to, I mean, based on what I've seen online, because I've been toying with the idea of going to Orlando. It seems like, I mean, the usuals like Raw the night after is sold out, but WrestleMania itself. But granted, Dallas didn't really, I mean, I don't know that Dallas really sold out last year, but I mean, you could still get tickets for that the entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think they're going to need a big draw, and I think The Rock would be a huge draw.
Yeah. A couple ones real quick. Kenny Omega at the Rumble. Nope, he can't. Contract. If he hasn't re-signed with New Japan, his contract's still not up till January 31st. If Roman and Cena face each other, who will get cheered in your opinion? I think it would be Cena.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, right? I mean, that's the way to do it. Just get somebody. I don't know. Who do you think how do you think he could get Reigns over? I mean, I saw on Reddit someone had the idea that The Miz, but yeah, I think that would just backfire. And I think The Miz, I think people would just embrace how much they love his shtick. If it was The Miz.
Yeah, I think the only person would be Eva Marie. Again, like I said, you got to turn him heel, and I think everyone knows that, but they won't do it. Someone had a good suggestion about an NXT Royal Rumble at Takeover the night before. That'd be kind of a cool little, appetizer, I guess, a warm up. But you don't want to overkill that gimmick either.
But 30 people in NXT currently, you would have to explain.
No, you could do like a 15-man or a 10-man.
Yeah, you'd still have to explain who half those people were to even the NXT audience.
Yeah, if you did 15, you could fit a bunch in there, but then the rest of the card would really suffer.
Yeah. I don't know. So what are the matches going to be for TakeOver? I'm assuming. So we've got actually tonight on TV, isn't the Revival versus DIY? Isn't that rematch?
Let me double check. We got it here on the site. So obviously Nakamura and Bobby Roode.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Bobby Roode win that one, especially since that probably means that we're a step closer to Nakamura coming to the main roster. I think that's the only match officially announced.
Wow.
Yeah, nothing else is official. So
what's the name of this TakeOver?
San Antonio.
That makes sense.
All right. Well, someone's asking Roman defending against Finn Balor at Mania. You know, they did kind of do that tease with Undertaker and Braun Strowman at Raw this past Monday. And they usually do, you know, I mean, there are times they do it as a swerve, but if Taker and Braun Strowman, if they change direction from Taker and Cena to Taker and Braun Strowman, and that's when they announced Undertaker being on Raw, that was kind of the first thing that came to my mind is why are they doing it? Is it because he's going to be facing someone from Raw? And their explanation was that he's not really on any other brand. He answers to no one. So by saying that, it gives him that freedom to face someone from Raw. And if that's the case, it's most likely would be Braun Strowman unless they did Roman Reigns. So I think Undertaker versus Cena is a lot more interesting than Taker versus Braun Strowman for many reasons. But just 1,000 times more.
I mean, just for the match content itself. I mean, I don't know. I know you weren't a huge fan of Undertaker versus Strowman or Undertaker versus Shane McMahon at this past WrestleMania, but I think Undertaker versus Strowman will make that look like Andre versus Hogan by comparison.
Well, Andre versus Hogan is it was such an iconic match that during that time period, I don't think people, the mainstream didn't look at it as a crappy wrestling match, but as like these two icons and Hogan overcame the odds. So I think it would be more like, what's it crap? When Snooki wrestled, something like that. But we'll see. I mean, I hope they don't go with Taker and Braun Strowman, but that was my initial reaction when they said Taker was going to be on Raw, because otherwise it really doesn't make any sense for him not to be on SmackDown and challenge for the WWE title against whoever wins that.
Well, and if Strowman somehow becomes the U.S. champ and is in that match at WrestleMania, doesn't Mr. Matt Morgan owe us $500 each?
Well, Strowman, I don't see him becoming U.S. champ now that Chris Jericho won, but he owes us $500 if the match is Strowman versus Reigns for the WWE Universal Championship.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that'll be something to see. Speaking of which, Matt Morgan will be back this Monday on the podcast. Lastly, before we conclude, so the updated card for TakeOver San Antonio is Shinsuke versus Bobby Roode, and then a women's fatal four-way with Asuka versus Nikki Cross versus Peyton Royce versus Billie Kay, and an NXT Tag Team Championship, DIY versus the Authors of Pain. Good thing those guys are finally getting their title shot.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Has that gotten any more interesting, the Authors of Pain? I mean, that they were part of the reason why I mean, I know someone said, oh, I lose faith in Glenn when he stops watching NXT, but it's like, I'm sorry. When we went from American Alpha and the Revival and those barn burner matches, then like, hey, here's the Authors of Pain. You should care about them. It's like, well, maybe the NXT is not appointment viewing anymore.
I think the Revival are so good that they should be able to make this match entertaining. And I think this match
DIY. It's DIY versus.
Oh, I mean DIY. Yeah. DIY. I think there's smaller guys. They should be able to bump off of Authors of Pain really well. So the Revival, they're not doing anything right now, right?
I think they're rematching tonight on NXT. So this comes from the tapings. This news. So I'm assuming, spoiler everybody, draw your own conclusions about who wins that match.
Right.
So yeah, DIY versus the Authors of Pain for the NXT Championship at San Antonio, and then Ty Dillinger versus a member of Sanity, which from what I have watched of NXT, I gotta say Sanity, dig that gimmick. Yeah, I think Sanity is like, that's something that could bring me back into watching more of NXT on a regular basis.
They come across as like a grungy Wyatt family to me.
Oh, absolutely. But it just it kind of works though. And they haven't just they haven't overdone it to the point that they have with the Wyatts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not, I'm just, I'm not crapping on it, but it just comes across as a little familiar, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of the Wyatts, we didn't give more attention to this, but man, Randy Orton, I don't feel so bad about my inability to grow a full beard anymore because Randy Orton's got some challenges when it comes to his own facial hair.
Yeah. Someone's saying Eric Young versus Ty Dillinger. My guess is that's how it's going, but if it is, I have a feeling Ty is going to lose, and I feel like he badly needs a win at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like Ty, I mean, NXT fans like him. The audience likes him, but I don't know what they do with him at this point, unless his end goal is, and I think probably he's been around the WWE so long, and he's someone I could see becoming a trainer in the long run and just use his enhancement talent.
All right, put you on the spot real quick. Someone's asking in our comment section, what do you see being the 2 world title matchups at WrestleMania?
What do I want it to be, or what do I see? Because I think what I see is very much like what I think some. I think if Reigns gets the belt, I could see them milking Reigns and Owens more, and I could see them milking Styles and Cena more. I mean,
they wouldn't do those again at WrestleMania.
If they have Goldberg versus Lesnar for like the final to end it all, I mean, I don't know.
When have they done that? It's always like new matches for the, or newer matches that, that they do. They don't do rematches from the last couple of pay-per-views.
What are they doing? I mean, so if Balor came back, which I doubt he will, but I could see Balor versus Reigns or Owens. I could see Rollins maybe in that title picture.
Rollins is with Triple H.
Yeah.
Finn Balor, I don't see them putting him back in a world title match when he just comes back from injury. I still think it's going to be Taker and Cena, and I think it's going to be Roman and Braun Strowman, as bad as that sounds. So.
And all I'm saying is, why don't we just build Kevin Owens more and the main event be Owens versus Sami Zayn, which is,
It's a little, God, that would be terrible. It'd be a good match, but it'd be a terrible drawing match.
Yes.
I mean, Jericho and Owens, that'll be I think that's your US title match, and I think that'll be great.
Yeah, I just think I mean, it's just an episode of Raw at that point, man. I mean, I've like Jericho and Owens. I mean, it's the same stuff.
Yeah, but they've been building that. They've been building that for like 8 months. You don't throw away that
the first time you see that matchup, or you think you're going to see it
absolutely.
For 6 weeks? You don't think 6 weeks building up to it, they're going to run into the ground?
Nope. That'll be the first time.
If that is the first time, I think that would be a great match. But I just with Raw, I think they can't wait. They need to.
They've been waiting this long. I can't see them giving up on it.
When's Jericho? Is Jericho going to take time off after that? Is that still the word on the street?
Yeah. He's got a bunch of Fozzy concerts. He's recording a new Fozzy album. So I think that WrestleMania or a couple weeks after.
He knows what the world's just demanding from him. And it's not more wrestling. It's more Fozzy. That's what we really all want to see from Chris Jericho. Maybe he can host a game show again. Although I have to say Downfall was actually pretty cool.
His life. Could you imagine, walking a day in his shoes with all that he's done, hosting, what wrestler could say they hosted a game show, played at, these hard rock festivals in front of, tons of fans and then wrestled at the highest levels and wrestled Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. I mean, that guy has done it all. So if that's what he wants to do, man, more power to him.
Actually, you know what Chris Jericho is best at right now? And I'm not knocking Jericho at all. Big fan of everything he's done. Okay, maybe not the music as much, but I would say in addition to wrestling, I actually think he's a great interviewer and a great podcast host. I think Talk is Jericho is phenomenal. And if I had to say there's something I would like to see Chris Jericho do more of, I think it's that. I'd love to see him get an interview show. I love them to do with him what they've done with Austin on the network.
Yeah. I mean, I got to say his one podcast that he did do on the network with Stephanie was the weakest, one of the weaker ones. Again, I don't know if it's because I agree, his podcasts are great. So I don't know if it's just it being Stephanie and Stephanie is so guarded with her answers that it'd be hard to get an interesting podcast out of her anyway.
Oh, on the network especially. I mean, can you imagine that? It's like, hey, you get to interview Stephanie McMahon and you get to do it on the network. So it's like you have this double layer. And it's not like Austin. Austin has some runway right now. Jericho's still working for the company. And even though he has a favorable contract, I mean, he doesn't have that same distance and aloofness that Austin is allowed to have.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, I think if they cut him loose and let him do some stuff, I think it could be great. But yeah, so I don't know. So I'm sure we'll see that at Mania, but got a long way to go still.
Yeah.
10 weeks. We'll see what happens. Cool. So everybody, Monday night, Matt Morgan returns to the Wrestling Inc. podcast. We'll be discussing Monday Night Raw, and stay tuned to the site. So Raj, this weekend coming up, coverage of the UK tournament.
Coverage of the UK tournament. And yeah, that's I think that's all there is this weekend, right? There's nothing really that big, so kind of a slower weekend, which can be nice.
Totally cool. So everyone, till next time, I'm Glenn Rubenstein, and we'll see you back here on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Take care.